make sure you have accepted Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, because the world is ending. Since we are all locked down in our houses right now and people are having anxiety and just like, you know, there's a lot going on. You guys have asked me to make some story times for you, so hopefully this video will help take your mind off of everything that's going on, even just for a little bit. So today's story time is all about how my mom knowingly left me trapped in my room after an earthquake. I know that sounds like really cruel, but first just like hear me out, because my mom's not a bad person, but this was a bad thing that happened to me. I don't know if you guys remember this, but I believe it was 94. We lived in Northridge, California, which is like the San Fernando Valley, if anyone knows where that's at. There was a huge earthquake that hit. It was a massive earthquake. My mom was born and raised in Miami, Florida, and so she is not used to earthquakes. In fact, she is so petrified of earthquakes that when one starts to happen, she freezes and can't move or do anything, or like she just like goes white. She just like full blown goes into a panic. Let me just give you a little rundown, a little oh my god, why is my brain so broken? I literally need to make merch that says my brain is broken. Not a recap, but like what the fuck, whatever. I'm trying to give you guys like some context to like how everything unfolded. My mom and my dad got divorced when I was young, and my mom was a single mom, and we lived in a townhouse in Northridge, and it was 2 stories, and I had my own room, my sister had her own room, and then my mom had her own room. My room was in the middle of my sister and my mom's room, like upstairs. That night, my little sister ended up sleeping in my mom's room, thankfully, because God forbid my little sister got stuck in her room, would have been even more of a disaster. I just remember waking up to like what sounded like a train coming through our house. It was super loud and everything was shaking. It was pitch black, like I couldn't see anything. I just remember it just being like really loud, and I was also really young. I just remember like thinking that the world was gonna end or like the world was ending, and I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna die. Basically the earthquake lasted a really long time. I remember being able to like get up and stand up, and just like it being, you know, like super rocky, and I couldn't get out of my room and I couldn't see anything. Something fell in front of the door in my room and I couldn't get out. I don't remember if it was my dresser, whatever it was something very big, and I couldn't see or wasn't strong enough to like push it away to get out. And I remember yelling for my mom, "Mom, Mom!" She didn't say anything back to me. So here I am, like in the middle of this massive earthquake, like a young little girl trapped in my room in the dark, screaming for my mom and like not hearing anything in response. And so I just assumed that my mom had died, and so did my little sister, and that I was like trapped and alone and scared in my room. I didn't even know at the time that it was an earthquake. Like I didn't know what was happening. You know, I had just woken up in the middle of the night. Like, you know, you're like kind of confused, you don't really know everything that's going on. I just remember being really scared and like thinking the world was gonna end and that my mom was dead. Once everything like got quiet and stopped shaking, I remember yelling out again for my mom, and she just yelled back for me, "Shannon, Shannon." I just like remember like, "Mom," like us calling each other back and forth. I think my mom was like, come to my room," because my mom couldn't get out of bed. Like she was so scared and like frozen that like she couldn't get out of bed, and I couldn't get out of my room, and I was like, I'm stuck, like come get me." My mom couldn't get up. She couldn't come get me. She was literally stuck frozen in her bed, like panicked. I somehow like eventually ended up being able to move what was ever in front of the door enough for me to like open the door like this much, but I couldn't fit out. And then all of a sudden we started to have an aftershock. So an aftershock, if you don't know much about earthquakes, like when you have a big earthquake, a lot of times you'll have smaller earthquakes after, but this small aftershock was like a 4 point something. So it was still a pretty big earthquake. And I just remember like the aftershock happening, and then like me not being able to get out of my room still. And I was like literally trapped in my room for a really long time, and I was like panicking. And then eventually we had another little aftershock, and that actually moved what was ever in front of my door enough for me to be able to open my door, enough for me to like literally push myself through the door. I don't know how I got out, to be honest, because when we went back and looked at it, it almost looked like it was physically impossible for me to get out of my room with what was blocking it. I'm pretty sure like there was like structural damage to where like the door would not open, and also something was blocking it. I'm pretty sure it was my dresser that fell in front of it. And again, I was just a kid. There's no way I was able to like move that. And so this is one of those things that I'm like, I definitely believe in a higher power. I definitely believe in God. Like somebody was looking out for me, because that was like a little miracle, me being able to like get out of my room. And once I literally ran as fast as I could to my mom's room and jumped in bed, and my sister was in there with her, and eventually she was able to like come out of her like shock with all these like earthquakes happening, and we ended up being able to go downstairs. And again, this is like one of those things where it's just like God exists for sure. I might not be super religious, but I definitely believe in God, because we had like this massive dining room table that was like made of marble, and it like literally shattered everywhere. There was glass everywhere. We were all barefoot walking on glass, and not one of us was like cut our feet. And like we literally walked over that to like get out of the house. And I just remember like us being in like big t-shirts that we slept in, barefoot. And I remember like one of the neighbors, because we lived in a townhouse, like everybody was trying to get over to like this big grocery store parking lot, because it was like the safest place to be, because we were having all these earthquakes and it was like really dangerous. Our townhouse, like the whole thing ended up being condemned. So they like red taped it. And I don't know if you guys know, but like they'll do like red, yellow, green tape on each house to let you know like if it's safe to go back in after like a big earthquake like that. And we weren't even allowed to go back in there, but before it was condemned, we were able to go back in there during the day. And it was probably like one of the saddest things. It was almost like the house has crumbled and like everything was broken. Like our whole lives were like destroyed in that earthquake, and I felt so bad for my mom. I don't think like, because I was younger, sorry I'm out of breath, I ran up and down the stairs really fast to like get the charger from downstairs. But thinking about it now and telling the story, like looking back, like I feel so bad for my mom. For one, she's like so scared of earthquakes. That's like one of her biggest fears. And to know that she like had to deal with that alone, and she was like a single mom, and like her whole house was destroyed and all of her furniture and everything was broken. It was just like a really messed up situation for my mom, you know, like it made me feel really bad for her. But I remember like when we all got out of the building, literally like there were just like people coming out of their houses just like in total shock and panic, and everyone was like I said, trying to like get everybody to go to the grocery store parking lot, because it was just safer for us all to be there. And so I just remember like walking over there completely barefoot, like none of us had shoes on, and like getting ready to walk across the street, and one of the neighbors, which like I'm like getting religious in this video, but like God, I feel like really like sent this man to us like in our family, because my mom was carrying my little sister because she was barefoot, but I was also barefoot and still a kid. And so he was like, do you want me to pick her up and carry her across the street? My mom was like, yes, please, thank you. And I just remember like this strange man who was like our little angel, like came and like picked me up and like held me. And I just like felt so safe knowing someone else was like there to like protect us and like be there for us during like this really scary time. I didn't know this guy, you know, but I just remember like laying my head on him and just like wiping like my tears away, because like I was like scared, but like, you know, I felt like someone was there to help take care of us and my mom. It was just a really scary situation. I remember just like being cold and outside and like not knowing what was happening or what was going on. And I remember like hearing someone say like, oh, it was a really big earthquake, and that was the first time I realized like that's what happened. Like we just had a really bad earthquake. And then I was scared because I was like a kid that like we were gonna have another one. And so now I'm like petrified of earthquakes. I think my mom has definitely rubbed off on me. It's one of those things where like I remember being in nursing school. There's more to the story, by the way, so stay with me, but I'm gonna get off track for just a second. I remember being in nursing school and an earthquake happening. It wasn't anywhere near the big earthquake I had when I was younger, but I remember like the girl that sat next to me, she's like, are you okay? My whole face just like fucking went white, and like I froze up and like panicked. I think like it's in my genes because I was just so scared. I think I'm a little traumatized also from like just being in the big earthquake when I was little. And also keep in mind, they didn't have cell phones then. We couldn't like call my dad. And so I don't know how it happened, but somehow my dad ended up coming to get us. Keep in mind, this is also when Missy lived at the house. Ugh. Like he basically picked us up and we all went over to my dad's house. So it was like me, my mom, my sister, Missy, her 2 kids, my dad, my older sister Chantel was living there, and her boyfriend Abraham was also living there. He lived in North Hills, so it wasn't too far. We also had a pool in our backyard, and the earthquake was so big that the sides of our house, like in our backyard, we had these big cement blocks of like a wall, so big cement walls, and the earthquake was so strong that like the water from the pool made a wave like it would in the ocean and knocked the cement wall down in the backyard. You would walk in the backyard and all the walls were down, like you could see into your neighbor's backyard. Like it was just like, it was a really devastating earthquake. Thankfully none of us got hurt, but there were a lot of other little things that had happened that were like, damn dude, that was God looking out for us. And one of those things was my sister and her boyfriend had fallen asleep in the living room that night, because I guess they were like watching movies late at night, but where they slept, where there was like a big TV, and back then like they weren't like mounted to the walls, they were just like in an entertainment center. So like where she was laying, I guess her boyfriend Abraham had woken up during the earthquake and like had to wake her up because she didn't wake up yet. And as soon as he woke up and she like started walking away, the TV fell where my sister was sleeping, like right where her head would have been, like it would have killed her. So just like little things like that make me think like, wow, this is like God's way of like telling us like, wow, we are lucky and like he does exist, like he's looking out for us sometimes. Anyways, we all ended up staying at my dad's house. And thankfully, my dad's like really smart with that kind of stuff. Like he has like generators and flashlights and knows how to like fix things. So thank God we were with him. Like I felt safe being at my dad's house. And there was like a bunch of us there. So it was like a freaking slumber party. But we were all so scared that we all ended up sleeping in the living room together because there were constant aftershocks that kept happening. Thankfully, knock on wood, like there's no wood around me. We haven't had a big earthquake like that here in a really long time. I'm so scared of like tsunamis, and I live by the ocean now, so like I'm so like petrified of the ocean. It scares me so much, especially with everything going on right now. All the weird weather that we've been having and just like weird strange things that have been happening that have never happened before. A lot of people that are really religious are like, this is like the end of the world, like make sure you have accepted Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior because the world is ending. And so it just makes me kind of think of this, and this is why I wanted to do this story, because it made me think of like, oh my gosh, when I was little I like went through this, and I'm really scared of earthquakes and tsunamis and like asteroids hitting and like just like crazy stuff. If you guys haven't seen, oh my god, what's the movie we just watched that was so good? There's been so many good movies we've been watching that has to do with like kind of a lot of stuff that's going on right now, but there was like a really good asteroid movie that I watched. The astronauts go into space to try to like get rid of it, and I don't want to tell you too much of it. Anyway, that is kind of like the story of my mom knew I was like knowingly trapped in a room after an earthquake and she didn't come get me. My mom also said, like even till this day, she'll say like, it's a really good thing that you got out of your room. She's like, I don't know how you got out of your room, but it's a really good thing you did because there was no way I'd be able to go get you. She just knows herself and knows, it doesn't make her a bad mom. Like please don't come for my mom because she's the best mom in the world. Like I love her. I'm so grateful she's my mom. And now that I'm an adult and I see the way she is with me and like with Snow, like she is an amazing, I'm so lucky to have her. Like I wouldn't trade her for any mom in the world. But you know, like no moms are perfect. There's always certain things that they're gonna do, like they can't help, you know. She's allowed to be scared of earthquakes. But yeah, so that was really scary for me. So anyway, I just thought I'd share that story. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Also, just keep in mind, if you guys want to see more story times, like more crazy story times, I post a lot of them on Patreon because they're not allowed here. So if you guys want to check that out, I'll leave a link down below. But yeah, anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm sending you all my love and all my positive energy, and I hope to see you in my next video. Mwah!